The honest truth is, I think we really don't understand what AI is doing and where it's going. Over the weekend, I had a good opportunity to play with one of the latest GPT engines, Pentest GPT, and it was quite scary because it really enables even script kiddies to do things that seasoned pen testers may have to go to books or manuals to do.
Welcome to another episode of Discovering Disruptions in Tech. As always, I am your host, Howard Holton. And this week, I'm here with Morey Haber from BeyondTrust. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Morey.
Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Morey Haber. I'm the Chief Security Advisor here at BeyondTrust. I've been with the organization about 21 years through a couple of acquisitions. I currently operate as an advisor to our client base and have held the roles of CTO and CSO over my tenure. So pleasure speaking with you today.
That's awesome. I love talking to practitioners, especially those kind of the executive level, right? Because you think about how does technology work, how does business work, how do we put them both together to make both of them that much better?
It's a very interesting angle that I'm in this role today. In the past, developing products, designing solutions, talking to clients, operating the security for the organization, and now really going out and speaking to clients, analysts, a wide variety of other people to learn the trends and figure out what's coming next.
Well, on that topic, what are you excited about? What do you think people don't quite see coming and should be paying more attention to?
There's a lot of things people don't see coming. Look, my bingo card had nothing to do with Spain today, and the power outages, absolutely not.
That's true.
But the honest truth is, I think we really don't understand what AI is doing and where it's going. Over the weekend, I had a good opportunity to play with one of the latest GPT engines, Pentest GPT, and it was quite scary because it really enables even script kiddies to do things that seasoned pen testers may have to go to books or manuals to do, simply by just asking the question, I am authorized to go scan this website. Tell me all the vulnerabilities. Oh, here are all the steps and all the tools that I need. I think AI is going in directions that I don't think we quite grasp at the moment. Some of it could be good and some of it could be quite malicious.
I mean, that describes every fundamentally reality-altering tool we've ever created.
Absolutely.
Right? Every time we create some mind-bending tool that changes the space that we occupy, it has amazing, wonderful, positive uses and horrifyingly terrible and terrifying, terrible and bad uses.
I think that we are in a state where we're learning secure by design is now becoming a must. We can't develop these solutions or any type of solution anymore without putting security in the front. AI bots or AI agents right out of the gate are a perfect example of that. We're seeing them everywhere. They're over-entitled, they're over-permissions. We don't know how they encrypt the data. We don't necessarily know where they're being stored to. Companies have not necessarily ramped up their security assessment questionnaires to dive into all of the implications for it. And we can't even decide if secure by design was considered when they're being made or the automation behind them is being created.
Well, and secure by design within the LLM space is still in its infancy.
Absolutely.
So even if someone attempted to do secure by design but wasn't using the latest frameworks, the latest knowledge, the latest information, they may have thought they did everything right and still done everything effectively wrong.
Yes, and even more so. So when we consider what an AI agent could potentially do on your workstation, it has access to what? It's storing it. We don't know how long the data will live. We don't know how it's encrypted. We've basically said, okay, maybe we're going to secure by design, but the privileges that have been given to these machine elements do not follow concepts of least privilege, do not follow machine identity security. They literally miss the mark in many, many ways, and then we don't even know if the results are accurate or some form of AI hallucination, and we just believe it. There was a recent court case that came out the other day, not to get into politics, but the person submitted something to a federal judge, and it's similar to what happened several years ago, where all of the information was bogus in terms of previous court cases, etc.
I mean, that attorney needs to have their law license revoked.
It wasn't an attorney, it was the defendant that produced it.
It doesn't matter. Anyone that produces anything to the court at this point using AI, sorry. You need to be censured, you need to face penalties, you need to be held in contempt of court, something along those lines, right? Like, that case was so big and so popularized, anyone looking to leverage AI today to do that doesn't check their sources needs to face some severe penalties.
I'm full agreement with you. But for our listeners who may not keep up with periodicals every day, if you sleep on a pillow, you probably can get the reference of something that happened last week. Should not be happening, but this is someone using AI in ways that not intended, disruptive. Recently, we were discussing just in a personal matter with the family, let's do a little bit more like ancestry type comm work. And to our surprise, typing in some of our family names, some of my family are public figures or speak regularly at conferences, the amount of details that came out were quite unnerving in terms of children, relationships, everything else because of public records. If someone's trying to build a profile of you for social engineering or anything else, that research is just as easy as going into an AI engine and asking about the person now, especially if they have unique names or you know where they're born or where they live. This is not complicated science anymore and definitely could be used for malicious intent.
I mean, OSINT has been the key to quality pen testing for a good long while, right? And as we know, historically some of the most effective hackers have really been social engineers.
Yes.
Right? I mean,
80% of attacks today are identity-based through social engineering, and that statistic is only growing.
Right.
My organization produced a Microsoft vulnerability report that highlights vulnerabilities for Microsoft for the last 12 years. And what we have found is that list, even though it's getting smaller for critical, the overall content, the overall number is growing, but privilege escalation, lateral movement, and other types of identity attacks that can occur simply from Microsoft vulnerabilities is increasing and at an alarming rate. So when you marry these things together, we're in a very interesting set of times.
I mean, I think it's interesting because it should force us to face the concept of trust a little bit head on. Mm-hmm. I've said for a while, the biggest problem that we're facing right now isn't a lack of action, it's misplacing and misusing the term trust. Trust is supposed to be people trusting people based on the history between those people. And we've allowed that to be so maligned and so misused. I mean, the fact that we trust corporations says we started down the wrong path. Now we're trusting machines.
We trust machines, we trust emails, we trust text messages saying we have tolls to pay. I'm aware of a very interesting recent scam of a phone call followed by an email in a targeted attack saying you missed jury duty. The person moved. The threat actor knew the change of address. We sent it to that address, but the post office doesn't allow a forward. Well, there's the fine of X dollars, and if you don't pay it, then we will issue a warrant for your arrest. All it took was a phone call and an email to a targeted address scaring someone.
Yeah.
And that type of attack is quite real. And if formatted correctly, to be honest, I think more than enough people would fail for it. But all that took was just some good social engineering and good research to find the correlation between the two.
Yeah, some of the hacks that I've seen recently are really frightening, right? Where like they've targeted hackers specifically that they themselves say they should know better, and they've fallen for it.
Yeah.
Now, luckily, none of the ones that I've seen reported have fallen for it to any level of actual damage, but they did fall for it and start going down the path. It is really frightening. There's the story of the lady who worked in finance, was part of the finance team, was on a Zoom call with the CFO and several other members of their own finance team discussing the business of finance. The person was told to execute a wire transfer from the CFO, executed the wire transfer. None of those people were actually on that call.
And that's the whole problem with where we are with deep fakes and AI today. That trust, that identity trust is key. I've done a presentation at some larger analyst events on different AI threats. Last year was, I think last November, December, over in London. And in the middle of the presentation, I just stopped, got a glass of water and walked off, and the presentation just keeps on going with my voice, all AI generated. And the crowd is kind of looking at the screen going, wait, what?
Yeah.
That's him. Inflections, my stutter, even stopping for a minute to feel like it's getting a drink of water. Literally, that is free software on the web today where you can train it by reading a paragraph. and it sounds just like you.
Yeah, I did that. I recorded a podcast. I brought my wife in, I put headphones on, I clicked play. She's listening for like 3 minutes, and she looks at me and she goes, she takes the headphones off, and she goes, "Why am I don't want to hear you talk about this stuff. I'm not interested in this at all." And I go, "Cool. I never said any of those words."
That's right, all AI generated.
Yep. And she went, no, that's not okay. No, it's not okay. We've been married for 25 years. If my wife can't recognize my own voice, everyone else is they're just screwed. There's no two ways about it.
Congratulations on 25 years. Now we have the trust problem.
Right.
How do we help customers get past this trust? We now know that we've always said, look, you get the email, call the person and verify. But in that email, it could be a bogus phone number. The jury example that I gave earlier gave a 1-800 phone number. They answered the phone, the county that it was supposed to be, and it was all bogus. So how do you get past deep fakes, phone numbers, call centers like when we watched the movie Hackers from 30 years ago that are now reality? That trust now takes on a whole nother level where we almost have to have, pass keys. You and I know a password, or I do it with my children. If someone ever call them and say, "I'm stuck in a country," they know that keyword.
Yep.
We got to start thinking on another level to maintain that trust, especially on critical transactions.
I mean, we've been talking about zero trust for a long time,
Yeah.
and zero trust up to this point has mostly been focused on the machine zero trust, right? Reduce the blast radius, don't trust the application, don't trust the identity, all that sort of stuff. We need to extend it into humans. We need humans to stop trusting, right? So if you get an email that says you missed jury duty, you're going to be fine, and a phone call that says you missed jury duty, you're going to be fine, hang up the phone, Google your county's, the county Supreme Court
numbers,
call the clerk of the court, and get the clerk of the court on the phone and ask the question.
Well, that's
right? Which is actually the advice we were given years ago when you would receive a text message from your bank and everything else. Don't ever trust the phone number in those things. Look on the back of your credit card, go to your bank's website, look up the phone numbers from there. I mean, there's probably a point at which we'll have some hostile takeovers of those phone numbers, but for now, that's at least the best you could do.
That is the best you can do, and it's even don't Google the phone number, because that has been to use it as a verb, don't look to use the internet to search for the phone number, because there have been SEO campaigns that have put airlines and others
that is true.
At higher rankings. So you have to go to a trusted source to get that number. The good part is it is still a felony to do postal fraud, to get any of these letters. If you have your utility company or anything else with a printed paper, threat actors are not going down that route yet because the punishment is still too severe. So
the most effective federal investigative agency we have is the U.S. Postal Service. They take all of it incredibly seriously,
yes.
And they really do follow it up, and they really do press charges. It's like messing with the Navy's boats. You don't mess with the mail.
You don't. So trust for the identities, maybe we are going back to a little bit of get that letter in the mail certified, etc., to prove who we are. But I do agree, there is a problem with identity security, trusts, AI being a piece of it, and then even the operational aspects of any identity, human and machine within a company. That opens up a whole different Pandora's box of, hey, dormant accounts, legacy accounts, faults in joiner, mover, lever, applying AI to it. We could go down a whole different rat hole here. It's just really interesting times where the identities of machines and humans are now a larger concern for businesses than how fast did I patch that vulnerability. Don't get me wrong, you still got to patch them, but it's not the first thing that I think of in terms of an attack.
No, that's very true. Like you can't ignore patching.
Can't.
At all. But you also can't think that patching is somehow going to save the day. Patching does zero to prevent anything that is close to social engineering. Right? And yes, 80% of attacks start with some sort of social engineering and a pivot.
And that's where I think the biggest disruptions in the industry are going, is the different types of attacks being more matured, using AI to craft that grammar perfect, spelling perfect email in any language that you want that could fool you or me, getting creative with the political unrest and the situations across the globe, picking up on that power outage, picking up on jury duty or a political campaign, and finding a way to needle in where that situation may not have occurred a few years ago due to different political climates.
For sure. Well, and creating anxiety to get you to make to take an action based on a reaction versus based on thought, right? Jury duty, perfect example. How is the city or county going to inform you that you missed jury duty? They're going to send you a letter.
Not an email.
Not an email. They're actually going to put something in the mail. Why? Because that is considered service under the law. They no longer have to send it certified.
But if someone is not
sure.
versed, then they fall for it.
For sure. But this way, everyone watching will at least heard those words and hopefully think about it.
So if we take this back to all of the companies that might be at RSA this week, etc., maybe our training has got to kick it up a notch, so that we have to teach people not to trust, always to verify, and learn those lessons of zero trust as humans talking to each other. I don't know, it's scaring me a little bit.
yeah, a little bit.
I was joking with the person that brought us to the room, and I said, okay, we're going to a strange hotel, a strange room. I hope I have both kidneys when I leave.
Always bring a buddy.
We're in San Francisco. I don't know.
It's true. Always bring a buddy, though.
She's going to protect me
right.
off camera.
Right.
But yes.
Right.
So
she looks ferocious. Your kidneys are safe.
Thank you very much.
I mean, I'm not going to say it was a backup plan, but it might have been a backup plan.
There's no ice. There's no ice in the bathtub. I think we're in good shape.
Oh no, ice only matters if you're going to survive. I can make it to the ice machine before that kidney goes sour.
So how else do we prove to everybody else in the audience that I think trust is something that we have to enable in education going forward?
We absolutely do. I mean, frankly, this conversation, funny as it might be, trust is something that we do naturally.
We
right?
want to.
Well, but you thought about, I'm going to a strange person's hotel room. Even if you dismissed it almost immediately, you still thought about, is this a situation that I should trust? Does this situation make sense? Does it fit into the worldview that I have? Does it seem like it's reasonable? And yet, we do that in person all the time. Right? You think about, should I walk through down, like, is this street going to be safe based on the amount of lighting and the fact that it's 11 o'clock at night and there's 40 other people here and I don't know any of them. But it's not so busy that people are paying attention, but it's not so empty that I can feel secure. You know what I mean? Like, we think of all of those things.
But we're not thinking about it when it goes back to our original topic of AI.
Correct.
Because when we talk about our machines and the data and the learning that it does, we don't get to make that choice anymore. With something built into email, something built into office suites, etc., it's learning everything whether we want it to or not, and we don't have that trust. It's going to make recommendations and do things far outside of me making a joke about kidneys.
Well, it's also been doing it for a long time, in fairness. We've been using AI for targeted messaging and all kinds of other things for a long time.
But now it's coming downstream.
It's getting way more personal.
Yes.
The good news is, though, it's also sparking conversations like this one.
And I think we all have to be cognizant of where we're using it, how we're using it, the encryption, and most importantly, where and what is being done with that data. I think from a trust perspective, we're trusting these AI bots, we're trusting these AI agents, who, what, where, and when is looking at it. And will it feed other data sources in the future? And I would just say everyone's got to ask that question in the end.
Well, and demand that when a company says, we don't do this, you make them prove it, and you hold them accountable.
Agreed. So we look at, like we talked a little bit about the ancestry piece, that is currently in the courts with the company going bankrupt. Who will have access to that data? Can it be sold? Can it be used as an asset? There might be some other thoughts behind that too.
In fairness, the bankruptcy court has warned that whoever purchases that asset out of bankruptcy must maintain the existing privacy policy.
Okay, something that I've learned.
Yeah, so thankfully, they have said that. Now,
okay, that doesn't mean it can't be sold, harvested, carved up.
Yeah, I mean, there's some scary things that we're starting to do. I don't know if you saw there are a bunch of airports that are going to start rolling out AI facial recognition to make it easier to pass through security.
I've seen it over in Europe already. They claim they don't hold the photos.
Sure.
I was in the Middle East 2 weeks ago. I did not show my boarding pass anywhere through the airport.
I did not show my boarding pass in Rome at all, right? But it is frightening because now I have to trust that the company's doing what they say they're doing. Not holding the photos, sure, but I could easily create an algorithm because we did it 30 years ago. I worked in fingerprint recognition, and we created an algorithm that reduced the photo of a fingerprint to a number. And then you could compare that number, right, to...
Yeah, but you do it I came from Orlando this morning. The TSA checkpoint used photos.
For sure.
That says the photo's being deleted, but there's a log.
Sure.
There's
but
a
again,
log file that's associated with me.
Sure. But if I have a standard algorithm, I could just reduce that to a number, to a digit, a single string, and then delete the photo, and the data is still effectively there.
As long as you know the number and me,
yeah, for sure,
you can find my passport photo and everything else. It's not anonymous. It's not truly being deleted. The reference indicators
What's
are
also
still there.
The words, the picture is being deleted, that should not give you the confidence to know your identity is not being saved.
It is being saved. It absolutely has to be.
Correct.
Yes. So to make the public happy thinking, okay, I'll go through this and they don't know who I am is not true.
Correct.
Yes, we do live in interesting times.
That we do. Well, on that note, it's been another episode of Discovering Disruptions in Tech. Please like, subscribe, follow, and comment. And if you'd like to be on an episode, just feel free to reach out. My name's Howard. Have a great day.
Thank you for having me.